Bill, let me just start in with you. If you can put down your phone for a second.
I'm researching to make sure you were telling true
I appreciate the fact checking. Right. So I'm not going to ask you about Melania. I want to know what you think about the interview with Kellyanne Conway and the position she's in, really not defending, but being forced to defend false statements made by the President of the United States.
But as you say, not defending, that's actually what I was looking at on my phone. What did the President, you asked her specifically about a very concrete statement the President made today. The murder rate is the highest it's been in 47 years.
Falsehood.
Right, falsehood. He says in this interesting quote that I was looking at on my phone, he knows he's said it before. He says, I used to use that. I'd say that in a speech, and everybody was surprised because the press doesn't tell it like it is. Wasn't to their advantage to say that. But the murder rate is the highest it's been in, I guess, from 45 to 47 years. He was called on this repeatedly during the campaign.
Why would we want to cover up the murder rate?
I don't know. That's between you and your bosses. I'll leave that to you. You and Jeff Zucker can discuss this.
Obviously,
but anyway,
it's not true. Obviously, it's not true.
Right. The tiny truth is that the tick up in the murder rate, which has gone down for the last 30 years, was higher this year than any uptick in the preceding, I think, 45 years. But he must know it's not true. It's evidently not true. He's been corrected on it, and he sort of relishes in the fact that he's been saying it over and over again. He said it today, and then Kellyanne Conway wouldn't defend it, obviously, when she's on with you. But what situation are we in when the President of the United States repeats over and over again something that's just untrue?
Do you think he knows it's not true?
It's very hard to get to intent with people of knowing, what they know and what they don't know. I'd like to think that he's not lying, that he somehow is getting bad information, but he does say a lot of things that are not accurate, and then is called out on it. And then you watch Kellyanne when you're asking her these questions, even the question about, was he comparing the war in Iraq to Putin, which he clearly
obviously was.
And she basically says, no, he wasn't. And it's like, but he was. So I
Well, they put it through this translator where they say, how do I make this into an acceptable thing to say, an acceptable political argument? And then they just repeat something that's not even remotely what he said.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think it's, or even when you ask the question about why hasn't he said anything about the attack in Quebec, and she went off, she said something like, he doesn't tweet about everything, which is, I think, a debatable comment. But doesn't really answer the question. We never really got an answer to that. So it is this very sort of circular conversation where in the end, I don't feel like you really get a good answer.
You know who noticed that he hasn't said anything publicly about the attack in Quebec? Canada.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody in Canada has tweeted me, every single one of them. And they don't understand why it is. What do you think about the fact that she was like saying, I want you to be covering these other things, this meeting with the sheriffs went well, we're going to do all this stuff with the opioid epidemic, et cetera. Why do you only cover the one negative thing?
I must say, through the whole interview, I kept asking myself, am I dreaming this? It was hard to follow any line of logic in any of her answers, and I think at this point, the most charitable read on this is that Kellyanne Conway is extremely exhausted. It showed in her face, and it showed in her answers.
Well, we're all exhausted. Let's not pick on poor Kellyanne.
Can I make one point about this? I mean, you and she went back and forth on this a little bit. Well, the media has made a lot of mistakes. The media has made more mistakes than usual in the last couple of months covering Donald Trump, maybe out of a kind of exaggerated outrage that he was going to be president and now is president. But still, and you made this point, I think, kind of quickly, the media is the media. It makes mistakes. Other people in the media criticize the media. We all deserve to be criticized when we make mistakes. There's only one president of the United States. He has the entire U.S. government at his disposal to fact-check things that he's going to say. You've been in covered White Houses. I've served in a White House. You know how much trouble normal presidents go to and normal presidential staffs go to try to make sure that the president doesn't make an error, or if he does, that they correct it pretty quickly. And it matters. He's the president of the United States. It doesn't matter if one website somewhere misquotes Kellyanne, or even, frankly, if CNN gets something wrong for an hour before they correct it. It matters if the president does.
Except that in this case, the White House staff seems to be devoting itself not to correcting his errors, but to reinforcing his errors.
Doubling down.
But I also am very curious as where she's come up with this idea about you covered him one way when he was the candidate. Now you're not covering him differently because he's president. Where this idea that suddenly the media is supposed to shift and have a different kind of coverage because somebody's president. I think the coverage is the same. You cover the person as accurately and fairly as you can. And it's not like because they become president, suddenly you start going easier on them or stop asking difficult questions. But Kellyanne seems to feel that that's what's supposed to happen, and somehow the media has kind of let them down.
Except that he's conducting his presidency exactly the way he conducted his campaign, starting with, 6 a.m. on Twitter. So of course it's going to be covered very much the way his campaign
She
was
seems
covered.
to think that because he's president, do you know what I'm saying? Like she said this repeatedly.
He should be
that
treated
has-
with more
that
respect.
Somehow the media is supposed to treat him. He's not being treated disrespectfully. People are just asking questions, and you know, I don't think there is a matter. It's a matter
The
of
opposite is
disrespect.
closer to the truth, isn't it? I mean, normally we give candidates a certain running room.
Yeah.
It's a campaign. They'll exaggerate. They'll put the best gloss on everything they've done or are going to do. When you're president, you're president. What did
I think
Kennedy
that's
say?
it.
You govern in,
Yeah.
you campaign in poetry and you govern in prose. What he implied by that is that this is okay. Now you're the president of the United States. You're not a Republican candidate to become president.
I think she has a point in that the media is more aggressive. But I think that there's a good reason for it, and it's exactly what you just said. The stakes are much higher. He's the president of the United States. A comment he makes about Boeing will affect Boeing's stock. A comment he makes about a judge, who knows what that could happen. A comment he makes trying to discredit the entire media could actually have an effect on things. And when a president says something, it's much more important than
Or
a
she
candidate.
seems to think we're supposed to show deference or something. That's the sense.
Well,
that
that's
I
what
get.
Sebastian Gorka
Yeah,
said earlier
that's the
today. Did you
sense
see
I'm
that
getting,
quote?
and I'm
Yeah,
not
that's
sure
right.
where she's gotten that idea, because that's not something that I've ever heard before.
Sebastian
The
Gorka
comment
was-
he makes
yeah.
where he seems to dismiss that Putin is a killer. You know, Putin is going around to someone in critical condition in Moscow right now as a dissident in Russia. Does Putin not draw consequences from Trump's dismissal of the notion that we will hold someone like Putin to account for killing
But the
others?
greater sin, though, was to suggest there's a moral equivalency between the United States and what Putin does. I mean, that is something that you used to hear from leftist radicals in the 1970s, not from Republican presidents in the 21st century.
I mean, to equate what the Bush administration did and our soldiers did in Iraq, because he was talking about the killing, with Putin's thugs and the armies going in and seizing land in Georgia, seizing land in Ukraine, it boggles the mind. I can't imagine, Bill, if President Obama had said that, you guys, the Weekly Standard would be putting out deluxe 7-volume sets on the issue.
Right, and now we have to do that for Donald Trump. So. Obama said plenty of things that were false and misleading and exaggerated, but this is a new level, let's be honest. I mean, I agree, the moral equivalence is a new level, and also the just flat out saying falsehoods and insisting on them is a new level.
I don't mean to suggest that the Weekly Standard hasn't been calling him out. You certainly have.
It's okay.
You certainly have. Kirsten, Bill, and Karen, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.